Yeah. Let me drop exclusive game from my exclusive mind. You be out here chasing fame, I stay steady on my grind. Zero diamonds, zero.
Thank you for tapping into the Exclusive Minds podcast. Today we're going to be having an exclusive conversation with exclusive content from Exclusive Minds. I'm your host, Rook, and
Joe.
Let's get right into it.
All right. I think because it's been so long since we've actually done this that we're recording video, audio.
Episode 69.
Is it really?
I swear to God.
Always a winner.
Yeah. Last one was March 31st.
Holy shit. Yeah, so hey, everyone, we are still alive.
Yep.
We haven't given up on the podcast. Quite frankly, we ran into all kinds of life, right? I mean, I don't know how else to describe it. I mean, we can get into it. I mean, you want to talk about it or not?
Yeah, we can talk about it. I don't care.
So
I'll let you lead the conversation. I mean, we're here. We're here. We're fucking here, man.
We're fine, right?
Yeah, we're good.
We've been fine. So I guess Dave's brother Hayden. Gosh, how long ago was it? I guess it was like 2 months now, or almost 2 months ago.
At the tail end of April, Hayden went in to go get like a routine kind of checkup, or not routine, I guess, but it was like a follow-up to a checkup that should have happened, and he had I forget what it was called, like a plasma found on the top of his head, and then that plasma developed into some other stuff. Well, not developed, but was just found out to be like a tumor in the back of his head, and yeah, so the past month and some change, just been kind of dealing with that. I mean, obviously, can't really say that it was all that, but that was a big part of what's been going down, obviously, as you could imagine. But yeah, just kind of like Joe said, life, man. Life's just been in the way, and that was a big part of what was kind of going down there. Yeah,
and then anytime we found some free time, right, because of that, we were sort of jammed up, catching up on other stuff, and so boom, next thing you know, it's 2 months later, 2.5 months later. So that's the reason for the MIA. It's not because we didn't want to do it. It should just happen. The good news is Hayden's fine, right?
Hayden's great. He's doing
out and about and bouncing back.
He is bouncing back. The last update, I think Ida took him to take his test yesterday. He did good, got like an 80% on his test yesterday, which was fantastic news.
Yeah, college. He missed I guess he missed his finals and stuff.
Oh, yeah. Which was so crazy. Like, so most of the professors and such were fine with that. I think he had like 4 classes, 3 of which were kind of cool, and this one guy was just kind of being like hard on him a little bit, like, hey, we need to do this. So
this one guy was being a teacher who wanted him to actually take the test. Go figure.
Yeah, and he was,
and we're giving that guy grief.
And he's I don't know, due to the circumstances, but
I know, but still,
he was just like, I don't really believe in remote testing. He's like, so we'll have to meet here. And I forget how it came about. Hayden was just kind of like laid out a situation like, hey, I don't really drive. I can't drive and stuff like that with this. So he's like, all right, I'll come meet you at a Starbucks by your house. And he took the test and he's doing great. So that's about it. And it's funny. I mean, it's coming on here and talking about it. I really haven't told. I think I told you on last Saturday when we linked up. I really haven't told like any of my friends, like the people that I did want to know, or maybe it wasn't you I was talking about, but the people that like just I didn't tell. So this is probably like, for the few people that do listen that I haven't told.
Now they know.
Now they know. Yes, it's all good. But so that's kind of where everything's at, and you do see kind of a different perspective on things after something like that.
Yeah,
happens.
for sure. I mean, it's amazing too how. I mean, obviously, it was an incredibly tense situation when it first came up, right? Rushing him to the hospital.
Shout out to Joe and his family, because they did come out a lot, and you guys did help out a lot.
No worries, but I mean, it's amazing how it started off like holy shit, like serious, right? And everybody's freaking out.
It was always
rightfully
serious.
So.
Yeah, it was always serious.
And now it's kind of like I guess lighthearted, and we can sort of just jest about it, which is awesome. But
I don't know. I guess from your perspective, I could definitely see that. From us, it's still like, I would say lighthearted, but like today, for example, like I had to help him get out of the shower.
Yeah,
like,
but I mean, it's got to be a lot less intense.
Absolutely. I mean, given the circumstances, when you're like, all right, so the series of events, and this is kind of
we don't have to go into this too,
but the series of events that happened was like, all right, Friday after work, I'm literally driving home. It's 5:10. I remember every single detail of what's going on. 5:10 comes around. I'm on the bypass at this point. Mom calls me. Boom, crying. They found a plasma on their head. I'm like, I don't even know what that means, but let's go check it out, right? So 5:30, I make it like 5:30. By the 20-minute drive it takes me to get to the certain hospital that we were at. It was more like a local hospital. It wasn't like a main hospital, if that makes any sense. So we get there, and you could kind of tell the vibe of the area was just very like, why didn't you guys get a head scan sooner kind of thing? And my mom was like, we were, but the insurance didn't want to pay for it. And it's just like a whole back and forth. Very eerie kind of stuff. 6:30, 6:45 comes around. They come through. They tell us exactly what happened. They bring out the pictures and everything like that. So this is all Friday still.
Yep.
Saturday morning, so midnight Friday, 1, 2, 3 a.m. comes around. They transport Hayden and my mom to another hospital that's more qualified to do a surgery, because they were like, this is a little bit out of our ballpark of what's going down. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we're at this new place. Monday, Tuesday, Hayden's getting ready for surgery. Tuesday, he gets the surgery, and that's kind of like when everyone was like, what's going on, that tense situation that you're like talking about. But he had a great doctor. I mean, you met him. Was very structured in his...
He's a doctor.
He's a doctor. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Got a little of the OCD and a little of the...
Well, it was funny. I think my mom was talking to him, or I don't know who was talking to him. I think it was my mom. She would ask him a question.
Yeah, he doesn't have the social skills.
He would just finish out his entire thought and then get back to her question like 5 minutes later. Like,
I mean, that's the kind of guy you want.
That is extremely so. I mean, and then we ended up going to like his profile, and he had 10,000 reviews of like people raving about him. So
he's a legit. And it's a teaching school too, right? So I think he teaches, and he had all kinds of students around him and stuff like that. But yeah, he. I mean, not terrible on the social skills, but you could see there was just a slight, like
he just was like straight business,
just a slight little disconnect, and you know, given the situation, but I'm sure he's been through it a million times, and it probably is just
absolutely.
Unfortunately, becomes kind of routine. But yeah, he was a rock star.
He was awesome, and then we just been dealing with rehab, which rehab is like the second lump. We always we're told that in the hospital. Oh, the surgery's the first, and then the second one is just as bad with rehab. And we're kind of in the thick of the rehab part now, but not into the thick, but more so the tail end kind of the rehab. Yeah, it's just been a wild couple months with that, but yeah. Anyway, we have so much other stuff we could talk about. That,
no. That's fine. So I mean, that's the reason why we disappeared. And hopefully now we'll get back into sort of a bi-weekly or whatever it might be.
Absolutely. I think it gave us a lot, at least myself, I'll speak of myself, it gave us a lot of time to think. Like I said, it was just more of a perspective shift on a lot of things. And then on top of that, I was just really motivated with our brand stuff, man. I was really that's the focus that it kind of put me into, was like family, life short, that stuff. What can we do with our time while we're here? And then it was just doing stuff with the brand. I mean,
I missed doing it too. I wasn't sure. At first I was like, okay, it's cool that we're taking a break and not having it lingering over us. But after a while, I was like, man, we got to get back and do the podcast. And then I was like, I had considered a couple times just picking up the camera and just doing a solo. And I didn't do it. Never did it.
There you go. This is my first time hearing that.
It's amazing. I also, I've been listening to a lot more diverse podcasts recently, because everybody fucking podcasts.
I know.
I mean, I think we knew this, right? But it's like, I got locked into maybe 5 or 6 podcasts that I listened to on kind of a consistent basis, and just assumed that there was like a little micro world of just a few podcasters. Holy shit. Every topic you can think of, there's multiple, dozens of podcasts. Because when I'm buying the motorcycle, and we'll talk about that in a second, right? Yeah. I'm buying the motorcycle, and typically when I kind of get into something, I wrap around the axle of it, and I do all kinds of reading. I join all kinds of forums. I listen to all kinds of podcasts. I watch all kinds of videos. And sure enough, I did that, right? So I discovered all these motorcycling podcasts, and I'm like,
oh, really?
oh man, how great can these be, right? Are they just going to do like product reviews on motorcycles? And
now, are they doing the podcast while riding? Because I've seen a couple of those. Like they'll do like monologues of like,
most of the podcasts. No, the full length, like the hour-long podcast. No, they're in vlogs. They're in a studio and they're doing, they're talking about it. But there are a whole bunch of YouTubes, shorts and stuff like that where basically it's, training videos or whatnot to do kind of videos. And quite frankly, I probably should not be watching all these videos because it is fucking doom and gloom. I mean, it's constructive, but it's like, hey, you're going to get on this bike and you're going to crash. Hey, you're on this bike and you're going to, knock. It's just.
I know what you mean.
You're going to break and skid out, and it's just like one thing after another. And I know why they're doing it, right? It's not to. It isn't with any malintent or clickbait. It's it's these guys who are legitimate motorcycle trainers, right? The one guy that I'm listening to is ex-military, and he trains all the military guys on bikes, and got out and he now does it. But I mean, it's really useful information. But at the same time, for me, kind of getting back into it, and the bike I bought, which I shouldn't have, it's freaking me out.
Well, you gotta give the people a kind of a backstory of how you kind of led to the bike you're at, because you haven't said it yet. But like, you got a pretty intense bike. From at least, like, I'm not really into motorcycles. Like, I've always grew up with, we talk, like, ATVs, dirt bikes and stuff like that. So I know what's some good stuff and then what's not bad stuff. But your plan was to get an EV bike.
Oh, God. So, I mean, this is going to be probably the entire podcast. I mean,
let's try to condense it here. But you go ahead.
So, for those who don't know, right? So, I in the past had motorcycles. I had a couple Harleys before Noah was born. So I don't know what's that
18 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a long time since I've been on a bike. That's not entirely true. But so I had a bunch of Harleys, and then when Ida got pregnant with Noah, I gave up biking. And it's probably an age-old story that a lot of people do, right? You
want to stay alive during the kids,
right? You want to be there and stuff like that. Yeah. So I walked away from motorcycles completely, right? I certainly had other vices, right? I bought a Hummer H1 probably shortly after that, and then started to off-road like a madman.
That was fun. That was that was before the development across the way was built.
Yeah. So I mean, I substituted in four-wheel recklessness, but so I gave up on the Harley thing and gave up on motorcycles, and then I guess about a year and a half ago or so, Noah started to express some interest, and so he didn't want to get on a dirt bike and didn't know how to work the clutch. So I bought a Honda Trail 125. So a smaller bike, but it's a semi-automatic. You don't need to work a clutch. So there's shifty gears. And he ended up not ever using it, and I did. So I spent the year kind of just putzing around on that. But it's... it's a very small bike, and it doesn't really do much. Right? Yeah.
125.
And so I was like, oh, let me sell it. And I sold it, and actually it really held its value, which is fabulous, right? But I sold it. And then I also had a four-wheeler, a small four-wheeler that I had bought for Noah that he never used. So I sold that. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm flush with cash. Let me think about buying a new bike. And
you also had the Razor or the side-by-side for a little bit. Was that before? That was before?
That was before,
okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was part of the story or not.
No, and so I always wanted a Ducati.
Here we go.
Even when I had the Harleys, I wanted the Ducati, but I didn't want to jump into a sports bike, and didn't make any sense. And for those that don't know, Ducati's sort of like the Lamborghini or Ferrari of motorcycles, right? There's just an evolution, right? And you could say there's some others, but generally speaking, you sort of think of Ducati at the top of the pyramid.
And they're also like built by hand, aren't they?
I don't know. I doubt that.
Wasn't there like, I thought for a while there was like always like a thing with, like you said, they were always considered higher end bikes.
There's obviously different levels within the Ducati frame. So I mean, some of the sports, the real serious hardcore sports bikes might be hand built, but generally speaking, it's it's a premium bike for sure, right? You're paying for the name, you're paying for a little bit, but it's top of the line. And I always wanted a Ducati, even back in the day. So I was like, screw it, I'm going to buy one. And of course, I start looking, and you're right, I should go back because
to the EV.
I didn't actually want to get a Ducati initially. I wanted to get an electric motorcycle. And so I was looking at Zero motorcycles. I was looking at the Harley Davidson Livewire. And I was pretty much settled on getting a Harley Livewire. And
which are very nice bikes.
I liked it. And here's the deal. I was losing my freaking mind because their website is set up. Livewire is a spin-off of Harley, so they're owned by Harley, but it's like its own separate company. So
I figured
it's
because there was like a whole different branding to it, in general.
And they're set up on their website to make it feel like you're buying it like a Tesla, where you go online and you do everything online. Like I'm so used to the Tesla model now where I don't have to walk in a dealer. I could literally buy a car online and fill out all the paperwork, and the only thing I'm doing is showing up to pick it up, right? And I thought that's how this was going to be. So I go online and, it's the same exact thing. Put $250 down. We'll start the process, all the stuff. I get a call or an email from, a sales consultant, very much like Tesla, let's walk you through the process. And really all Livewire does is basically just throw you over to a Harley dealer who carries Livewire. And in this case, in Philly, there's only 3. There's one in Baltimore, kind of halfway between Baltimore and Philly, closer to Baltimore. There's one over in New Jersey on the other side of the river in Camden, and there's one in Northeast Philly.
So they're all about like an hour and a half away from each other?
They're all over an hour away. Okay. So it isn't like I could just go down to the it's not like I could go down to the one in it's 15, 20 minutes away in Chats Ford because they don't carry Livewire. And I'm like, okay, it's fine. So I went down to, they're like, we'll set you up, could take a test drive, all this other stuff. I ended up going down to the one in Baltimore because that's really only about an hour, a little over an hour away. And saw it and loved it. And I'm like, okay, great. And
did you test drive it or anything?
I didn't because it was raining that day. And I just kind of went in and looked. And I don't need to test drive a motorcycle. And, I know the experience. But I was like, all right, I'm going to get it. And the only reason I was going to get it is because I had, I've been so burned by Tesla and the value just falling off a freaking cliff. Like I am so far underwater in that Tesla in literally a stretch of 6 months because all this, EV bullshit, right?
I think a lot of rental companies are trying to get their position out of it.
Flooding out, right? So I was like, I didn't want to just buy it outright. And then as soon as I left the dealership, I just threw away, 50% of my money, right? So Harley Online has this financing program wherein it's basically a balloon payment. It's kind of like a lease, but it's a loan. And then at the end of 3 years, you can basically just walk away from it. And for it's a $16,000 bike. You basically finance, and it was like $5,000 or $6,000 out of pocket over those 3 years, which isn't cheap. But at least I had a parachute if the market for EVs or Livewire goes out of business or whatever, right?
You could just
and I'm so paranoid about that right now. That was the only way I was going to buy an electric motorcycle because I just didn't want to put out. Because they're serious money, right? I mean, it's like the EV cars, right? You're for a decent EV bike, you're 15,000 plus. Even on the Zeros, the one I was looking at was $15,000 or $16,000. So I was like, I don't want to foot that money because I know that even if I love the bike, it's going to depreciate like 50% the second I drive it off the lot, and I'm like, that's ridiculous. And then I'm like, okay, so then I apply for the financing and I make some pretty good money and I'm fairly good with credit. And they come back and they are like, yeah, the interest rate on that's like 13%. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about?
That's like crazy. That's even more than a car.
And online, they advertise it as 9%, which is still kind of high, but I was willing to do it only because it still gave me that parachute, right?
What was that 2% number that I was seeing online? Is like 1 or 2%?
That's for 24 months, and that's to finance the entire thing. So you basically take a 24-month loan on the $15,000, and it's 1.9%, right? Okay. But that would have been like $1,100 a month,
okay, gotcha.
Or something like that, right? Maybe not that much, but it was like $1,000 a month. And when I was trying to buy it, they didn't even have that, right? It was if I wanted to finance it outright with Harley Davidson Finance, it was like 9%. For the loan over like whatever it was, 6 or 7 years or some bullshit. And then this parachuting thing, they advertised it online for like 9%, but they came back and told me it was going to be 12.49%. I'm like
12.49%. That's ridiculous.
I'm like, what the fuck? What? I'm not doing that. That's horseshit. What are you talking about, right? Yeah. So the whole thing just blew up, and I just got so aggravated, and it wasn't like I was close by where I could sort of do the dance. It was such a pain in the ass, and I'm like, fuck this. I'm not getting an electric bike. Fuck it. I'm just not doing it. And then I'm like, I start looking at other bikes, and of course,
at their dealership.
No. I was so I and then I was like thinking to myself, I was going to go get a Harley, right? Because that's sort of what I probably would have, that would have been the natural progression. Get a gas Harley. And I'm looking at like the Pan America, which is sort of their off-road bike. It's kind of their hybrid dual sport, or adventure bike is what they call them. And I was going to get that, but it's such a big-ass bike. And I'm like, that, for me coming back into motorcycling, this is definitely not the bike I need to get, right? I can't even, like, if I'm sitting there, I can barely touch the floor, right?
Okay.
It's not a good idea. So then I'm like, well, do I get a Sportster? And I'm looking at them, and I'm like, man, I don't want a Harley. I just don't want a Harley.
They're bulky bikes, too.
I don't want a bike that I feel like I'm one step into the grave. Look, I know all the Harley people are being like, fuck you, you suck.
You're going to have the pagans in
but I get it. I mean, I get it. I get it. But I'm like, I just don't want to. For me, it just seems like it's like I'm slowing down, or it's, I don't know. I just didn't want a Harley. Right at the end of the day, I didn't want a Harley. So then, of course, I'm looking, and I'm like, I'm doing all the videos. I'm like, what do you get for a beginner bike or coming back bike? And everybody's like, well, you want something that's like, 350 cc's to 600 cc's. And I'm looking around, and I'm like, okay, I was close to getting a KTM 390. If you know bikes,
like a dirt bike?
No, it's a street bike, but it's a small one. It's like a baby street bike. So I was thinking, okay, this will be a good comeback. Or I was looking at the BMW 310 GS, right? That's their entry level bike. It's $5,000 or $6,000 or something like that. And then of course I'm like, oh, I want to do Ducati.
What's of course the size on that thing?
So of course I'm looking at Ducati, and I start looking at the Desert X, which again is their adventure bike, and I'm thinking I want an adventure bike because there's a lot of like gravel roads and stuff around here I can mess around with. And that was sort of the Honda Trail that I had, was a kind of an adventure bike. But these are adventure bikes on steroids. And again, same situation. The Ducati Desert X is a really cool bike, but it's big. It's a big bike. And I'm like, yeah, this is not a good idea. And then I was looking at a Multistrada, which is more of a street bike, but also could do a little bit of that. But again, same situation. It's a very big bike. And it's also very expensive, right there. Oh my God. Those two are $20,000 plus. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think this is a good idea. Oh my God. So I'm like, okay, I look around, and there's a couple other models. Like they have the Hyper Motard, which is like, it's kind of like a dual sport, like a four-wheel, or kind of an off dirt bike. Oh, okay. But it's for the street. And
it's a Ducati, though.
It is a Ducati. Okay. That's not really a dirt bike. I don't know how to explain it. If you know bikes, you know what it is. It's kind of a dual sport.
What's it called?
Hyper Motard.
Okay.
I think that's it. And then, so I landed on it was either the Scrambler or the Monster. The Scrambler is kind of their entry-level bike, and the Monster is, that's it, is also their entry-level bike. And so I'm looking at it, and I'm like, okay, the Scrambler is sort of like, it's kind of like it's an entry-level bike, kind of has a Harley feel to it. And then the Ducati is a naked bike, right, which is a street bike, but it's one of their smaller ones. And I'm like, okay, I want to get a Monster. So I'm pretty much settled on that. And then there's, 4 different flavors of it that obviously go up in price, right? So I'm looking at them. I'm like, there's the Monster, there's the Monster SP, and then there's the Monster Anniversary Edition, which has some stuff, and then there's a Senna model, which is like $25,000, and there's only 300 of them worldwide, and it's like that was off the table. But I'm looking at them, so it's down to the the basic one or the sports performance one, and I'm like looking at it, and I'm like, it was like $1,800 difference, and I'm like, oh, I don't really need all this sports shit, right? It's like I'm already way over my head with this bike, and I ended up buying the SP anyway because I'm like, you know what? I know if I get on this, yeah.
Oh God, I didn't even see. Well, I walked right by when I walked here.
There's a bunch of reasons why I did it, right? And it's not because of the sport, all the sporty shit that's on it, right? I bought that stuff knowing that if I got back on a regular Monster and started to like it, right, all of the extras that come with the SP, I was probably going to want to buy like new suspension, steering dampeners, bigger brakes.
So it's easier to go down versus
It's
going
easier
up.
to go down than it is up if you can afford it, right? I mean, that's the big thing. But the real reason that I went with the SP is because it's got what they refer to as wet mode, which is a factory mode that you put it into that basically detunes it to 75 horsepower from 110.
Okay.
And it sets all of the traction control and the ABS and the wheelie control and all that stuff to max, right?
Okay. I was gonna say, why would you want to do a wheelie? But wheelie control meaning it can't.
It won't do any of that, right? And so all the nanny stuff is maxed out, and I'm like, okay, that makes sense to me because it's almost like. It just puts it in a safer place, right?
Like
so I'm like,
quote unquote, training wheels on.
Yeah, I mean, it's still 75 horsepower. It's still a big ass bike. I mean, it's still got all that. And then, of course, I'm online listening to all these guys going, "Yeah, that's cool." But what you end up doing is you're sort of not learning proper throttle control because it detunes everything, right? It detunes the throttle. So as soon as you go out of wet mode, it's really touchy and you're kind of learning the hard way. And I'm like, yeah, but that's the same thing if I bought a KTM 390 and then I jump up to a monster thinking it's the same deal, right? So I'm like, it'll work out, right?
So you could do the sports or the wet mode. Anytime. That's your plan. So you could do it anytime.
You can leave it on, and that's my plan. Is I'll probably for the first bunch of months, it will never be out of wet mode, right? And which is good, right? So that's the thought. And then of course I was also like, because like I said, I was very close to getting the KTM 390, which is about a $6,000 bike, right? The Ducati's a lot, right? You can look it up, right? I mean, I don't want to, because nobody wants to talk about money. But I was looking at obviously a much, much cheaper bike, right? The BMW I mentioned and the KTM are about $5,000 or $6,000. But I was like, okay, I buy that bike, and then in 6 months I'm having a blast, and I'm like, I outgrow it rapidly, and I want to get into a Ducati. Now I got to sell it. I'm going to lose the value on it. So I was like, I just got to jump. I'm just going to jump into it, right? I'm just going to jump into it. And I'm like, you know what? At the end of the day, if none of this works out and I get freaking too scared and I am petrified to get on it, I really am. I'm like, you know what? I'll just park it in the garage, which is now sort of my office, and I'll just use it as a piece of art because it looks cool as shit.
Yeah, I was gonna say a lot of people tend to do that. I know that.
I know. So I'm like, but it looks fucking great.
But I have to see it when I go down there.
It's an awesome looking bike.
I know Taylor was kind of giving you some grief, like you have to buy the right clothes, but that bike you could seriously hurt yourself.
Well, so I bought all of the clothes, and let me tell you, I spent a fucking fortune on all that shit. Yeah.
Wow.
Because again, I didn't want to skimp on any of that, so I don't know. I bought some of the best shit that they have out. If you were to like crash, so I have an airbag vest.
Oh my god.
I have an airbag vest. I got a super good helmet. I got the jacket. I got the pants. I got the shoes, and I got the gloves. So I have it all. And it's almost like she was like,
you haven't rode it yet, and then you're like, I gotta wait for the clothes. She was like, wait for the clothes.
Yeah, you can't. You know.
I know what you mean.
Fall off a motorcycle in a pair of jeans. Guess what? You're ripping your whole body's getting torn to shreds, right? So I know. I'm smart enough to know that I needed all that, and so I went out and bought all that. And let me tell you, that hurt too, right? That's one of the things when you first get into motorcycling, right? There's a very serious upfront cost. Of course, now I have all that, right? The helmet hopefully should last 5 years, whatever it is.
Did it
right?
come in?
So it's downstairs.
That's cool.
It's all down there. The jacket's down. Everything's downstairs. But yeah, so I bought all of it. I mean, the only thing I'm waiting on is I did get there's a lower profile seat, which will. Right now, I can get on the bike and I'm on my tippy toes, and it's a little it's just a little uncomfortable. There's a lower seat that basically brings it down, I think, an inch or two, which will put my feet hopefully firmly on the ground. So I think that's really my excuse why I haven't been out on it, is I'm waiting on that. It's supposed to be delivered today. So
it's funny, everyone's buying bikes too, because 2 weekends ago Wade bought a bike, but he bought like an actual dirt, like a street legal dirt bike. I don't know what the hell it is. A Honda, I think.
Looks like a Honda with a red and white.
Yeah, 450. So
that's a big bike.
You guys could go out there together and go out. I don't know if I could get on a bike. If I were to get like something like that, it'd probably be something like a dirt bike, just something to I don't need to go super blazing fast, but something that I could also, if I want to, rip it around the yard or do whatever,
I mean, hopefully everything works out.
Yeah, hopefully so, man. It sounds like the past 2 experiences with buying stuff, you've been kind of getting the shit under the stick between the Hummer and now the electric car. You're just...
Yeah, I mean, it's, I don't know, so I'm happy.
There you go. That's all that matters, man.
Yeah, so that was it. And of course, I mean, I have I have OCD when I get into this shit. So I have been watching fucking videos.
I do the same thing.
And,
I think everyone does.
Everything. I mean, just like mad. I read a couple books. And so, I mean, Noah's been talking about wanting to get on a motorcycle. And I told him, I said, look, you talk game and it never happens. But I said, they have a licensing class in Lancaster, in Willow Street, which is not too far from here. And I'm like, I'd actually go back and retake all of the tests, right? I have my motorcycle license, but I would go back and do it all with them. So
they have a licensing test in where?
No,
wait. What'd you just say?
What do you mean?
Did you say Lancaster?
Lancaster.
Lancaster. Oh my God.
What the hell is it? It's Lancaster.
Lancaster.
Fuck that. Yeah, okay.
I mean, you've been living here for 20 years, man. Get with the program.
Well, like I told you, I had never been downtown Lancaster.
Lancaster until last weekend or whatever.
Lancaster until last week. I always went around it. And I'm like, holy shit, there's a real
this
town
guy
here.
has been living in the area for 20 years.
All right, I'm going to Willow Street. All right,
Okay.
That's where the goddamn training is. So
that'll be good. I think you think he'll like it?
I don't know. I mean, they provide the bikes for the basic course. The hardest thing with motorcycles is the clutch, right? You have to learn how to use a clutch.
The Honda was clutch or no?
The Honda was clutchless, so it was semi-automatic, right? So you did not have to work the clutch.
You did say that.
And quite frankly, the Ducati's the same way. You can or cannot. It has a clutch, but it also has Ducati's quick shift system, which means once you're in first gear, you can basically just do all of your shifting with the lever, the pedal lever, and you don't actually have to use the hand clutch if you don't want to.
Cool. So that's like in cars nowadays, they have the paddles in the back. It's kind of like the same concept type deal.
I mean, but it's not. There are fully automatic motorcycles. Honda basically, I think, kind of rules the roost on that. They have a thing called the DCT, which is
automatic
dynamic something transmission, or dual clutch transmission. But basically, that is true full automatic. You just basically get on the bike and go.
That's pretty fun, though. I mean, if you want something to go around on, that's a good time.
Yeah,
I mean, if you're someone that likes to do everything, then
And I mean, to be completely honest with you, that is my biggest hang up, is just relearning how to sort of do all the shifting and the clutch work. That's what scares me to death.
And you're doing it on an expensive bike.
I know.
Imagine if you were just messing around with the clutch, the thing falls.
I know.
It's an expensive mistake.
Look, I get it. I mean, if you drop a bike, I mean, as long as you're not crashing hard, right? You're basically just messing up the plastics and stuff like that. So it is what it is, right? I did get. That's the other thing that I'm waiting for is I have sliders. So basically, it's this piece that mounts to the side of the engine, and then it has this big rubber bumper that kind of sticks out. So if you drop it,
so it hits the
falls
bumper
on the bumper and grinds that to shit, and should save you from really wrecking. I mean, chances are you're going to bust a mirror and you might bust a clutch and some of the other stuff, but you got to deal with that. So
have you even went down in your street or your neighborhood?
I haven't. I mean, I literally picked it up, rolled it onto a carrier on the Hummer, and drove it home, and then put it right in the garage. I have not been on it, which I know is fuck. People are like, "What the fuck? This guy's an idiot," right?
No,
I agree.
Everyone learns at their own pace, man.
Yeah. So I mean, I in my head, I had the intention, regardless of what he ended up doing, that I was going to take baby steps with this. I wasn't going to just jump on the bike and assume that 20 years of past history were just going to come rushing back to me, and I was going to be able to just rock and roll, right?
Which is funny, because the whole expression, it's like riding a bike.
Yeah, well,
you know what I'm saying? That's the funny expression.
And I'm sure most of it will come back, I'm hoping fairly quickly, but I am absolutely taking baby steps. Absolutely taking baby steps.
I mean, you have, I feel like, a lot to lose, but nothing to gain.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So just do it
funny.
with your own.
I actually bought little cones, and I said to myself, I'm going to go down to either the church down here at the parking lot or over to Octorara during the summer, and I'm going to just do the figure eights and all the other stuff just to kind of get back into it. It's going to be a process.
Now I need to get a bike so we could go on ride-alongs.
Yeah, but like I said, you watch videos, it'll scare the shit out of you. I mean,
no, right now my hyperfixation, I'm like you. As soon as I order something,
I'm watching every review.
Oh, man.
You know what I mean? I was doing that recently. I just got a credit card. I did that with my credit card. I was like, what's the best one for 24-year-old? You know what I mean? You go down the thing.
Yep.
How does this stack up against the rest? And then the other thing I was doing it was guns. We were talking about guns for like months, and I was like, Joe recommended one, and I kind of said it to him, and I was like, dude, like the Navy SEALs are all carrying this. What do you think? He's like, oh, dude, I was going to get the same one. And I was like watching these videos on it, and like I got
Wait,
like,
the
deep
Navy
in the
SEALs
woods.
are carrying TACOP or
When they're off duty, like when they're just hanging around.
Oh,
There's
six.
one guy, he was just like, yo, I just carry this with me. And I was like, all right, cool.
Yeah, because that contract just came up, or I think the military switched because I thought they were all Berettas or something. But
no,
are they using SIGs now?
He carries it when he's not like on
so
his
that's
day to day. Like
yeah.
he's like
You just happen to come across a SEAL who loves SIGs.
Exactly,
Okay.
correct. And he was like, I use this all the time. Got into the weeds of it, and I was like, what do you change on it? I was looking at like triggers and all that different type of jazz, and just, you know, like you, I just get into the thick of whatever it is that I'm looking for. So I think it's a completely normal thing. If you were to put a timeline on it, when do you think you're going out?
On the bike? Maybe next week or this upcoming week, because I have to. I'm waiting on the lower seat and I don't have the frame slides yet. Right, they're coming today, so I'll get those either installed today or tomorrow.
Have you turned it on yet?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
All right, I want to see you turn it on when we get down there.
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah, I mean, look, it's. I mean, I am
I don't mean to
apps.
peer
I am
pressure you
apps.
on
No,
this,
I
dude.
mean it's the God's honest truth. I'm actually afraid to get on it. I really am. I mean, I'm. And like I said, the part of it is I've been watching too much shit instead of just doing it and getting on it. And I probably would have been fine if I had just got on. Now I'm fucking freaking out, right? Because it's like, you know, lean angles and all this other shit that you don't have that as much on a Harley, right? Any of the big cruisers, you kind of just
Yeah, with those ones, you like kind of like.
yeah, I mean, this, like, if you need to go around, you know, some serious curves, right? You gotta lean the bike and all this other stuff. And look, I haven't done that in forever, right? And I'm like, fuck.
What was I gonna say?
And I'm watching these guys that are trying to go around turns, and they're basically going straight into the dirt, and I'm crashing, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to be this fucking idiot, right?
What size is it? The bike, like, does it go by CC with that?
So it's a 950 cc.
Wow.
Or 950 cc.
So you're looking at bikes between 250 and 600, and then you go with 950.
I know. Well, I mean, when you get into Ducatis, right? I mean, the Monster is literally probably their smallest bike, other than the Scrambler, which is kind of a different thing. So this was it. This is the entry level Ducati, right? And
got a nice piece of artwork, a heavy paper magnet.
yeah, I mean, look, I am going to ride it, and I'm fortunate enough to live in an area where traffic. I mean, at the end of the day, if I do something stupid, it's most likely going to be me. I mean, it's, you know, because I can go out on a Saturday and Sunday morning and never see another car in some of those back roads in Lancaster County.
Unbelievable.
Lancaster. What's it called?
Lancaster.
Lancaster. You just blur it all together instead of LAN.
Well,
you know what it is? I'm a technology guy, so I think LAN, right? Local area network, and
oh my, no,
I break it apart. Lancaster.
Yeah, back that guy, this guy over here. All
right, so enough about me and my fucking bike.
What was I gonna say? Oh,
I'm sure we'll have
some
stories,
NVIDIA.
and hopefully I'll be around to actually continue to do the podcast, and I won't kill myself.
There you go. I bought some NVIDIA a couple weeks ago.
You're a little late to the party, bro.
No, I'm not. I'm still making money.
Yeah, but I mean, you're late to the party.
I know.
Fucking NVIDIA is nuclear.
I know. It's like
if there's truly of the term nuclear in stocks, that shit is freaking nuclear. I mean, it literally was $500 or $600 million market cap. It's fucking $3 billion in like 2 months.
Trillion. Yeah, it's
trillion,
insane.
right? I'm like, Jesus Christ.
So, for the people who care, it did a 10 for 1 split. So if you had any stock in NVIDIA, if you had 1 stock, you now have 10 stock over the past week. I mean, I brought it up just because it was more so a joke between me and my boss. There was a couple things that he invested in that he took a huge loss in, and he didn't invest in NVIDIA, or he bought a smaller amount than what he said he was going to have. Yeah, and that was like one of the things. So I bought it out of spite against him, low key. I was just like, yo, watch, I'm going to show you can make money off this. He's like, oh, AI, it's jibber jabber. And then it split, and he's like, David, you might be right on this one. And the other one was Rivian. He bought Rivian at like $90.
Oh, that hurt.
And now it's at $10.
Yeah.
And he's like that motherfucker. He's just like,
electric anything is not a good place to be right now.
Rivian,
I really like Rivian because of their product. Their product for their stuff is really, really top of the line. I think the EV market is just. I think what EV was supposed to be is what hybrid is now. I think hybrid controls the entire market.
I don't know what the hell controls the market. I mean, it's so fucking fickle. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. So I don't know.
I am an electric guy when it comes to cars. I mean,
what do you think about Rivian?
I like them, but they're too expensive. That's the biggest problem, right? I mean, you're overpaying. I mean, if you look at a gas-powered version of anything, you're going to get so much more car for the dollar, right? I mean, you're talking. I mean, Rivian, even with the blowout prices they're doing right now, you're probably still 75 or 80 grand for a pickup truck. You could for that same kind of money, you can get a fucking Ford Raptor.
I think they're coming out with Ford Raptors are dope. They're coming out with the Rivian. I think it's the R2. Coming up later this year.
It's like a little. I mean,
it's like the economy. It's like the Model 3. Because think about it. That's what Tesla was. Tesla had the Model S and the X, and the barrier was like 60 grand to get into it. Now they have the 3, and anyone could play with it.
Yeah, but it's I looked at the Ford Lightning, and it was like at the time that was like $80,000 for a pickup truck, and I'm like. 80 grand for a pickup truck. I mean, that was Raptor territory, right?
They were giving away those cars with like crazy stuff.
I just remember we went and looked at that Lightning that one day, and we went and looked at the Lightning. The Lightning was like 80 grand. Now there's a little bit of discounting, but it was like 80 grand. And I remember right next to it was a dually.
Oh yeah,
250
ginormous thing.
6-liter diesel monster ass truck, and it was like 20 grand cheaper.
Yeah. And it was
we're
hilarious.
looking at each other like. Yeah, something's just not working. This doesn't compute here, man.
And now they're having a hard time getting rid of the Lightnings off the line. They're like not selling. I don't know, man. The whole market's just kind of upside down. But like you said, going back to it, making the whole conversation circle is NVIDIA's kind of carrying the game. Like you see every stock is red. NVIDIA green across the board.
Fucking GoPro.
Yeah, maybe we should short GoPro stock. Speaking of stocks, we should just short the market. I mean,
wait, was that the GoPro?
No, it was. It was this one right here.
Yeah, what the hell? But it's still on. That's kind of weird.
It's on, but not recording.
Huh.
Anywho, what else in news?
How long have we been talking? 41 minutes.
You just started the recording.
No. I just restarted it because normally when it overheats, it just craps out and dies, and this is still on. So is it hot?
What else were we talking about?
It's not even really that hot.
Oh, Apple. You're an Apple guy through and through. What'd you think about the WW whatever the hell it was DC?
I don't really have any thoughts on WWDC because it's just, I mean, it's obviously software related, and there was just nothing. I mean, I know the whole Apple Intelligence thing, but I mean, we've all had ChatGPT forever now, and it's like, okay, this is Apple's version of it.
Yeah.
So I don't know how to get excited about something I can't wrap my head around it. I mean, I can wrap my head around it, but I'm like, okay, what's so special about it, right?
Yeah, before we went live, we were talking about the iPad, and the
iPad OS sucks. Apple fucking sucks with the iPads are a waste of money. Buy a fucking Mac and skip the damn thing.
IPads could be one of the best thing in the world.
It could be, but
if they had the file compatibility.
You know what it is they're so worried about cannibalizing Mac OS sales. Like they don't want to. They know they have people on the hook right now, dumbasses like me who buy the laptop and they buy the iPad and they buy the phone, right? And they're like, if we put the power into the freaking iPad, people are going to stop buying the laptops, which is probably going to happen, right? But I'm like, fucking just do it, you bastards, right?
No,
I mean, because the operating system on the iPad is basically the phone, and it sucks for this format of a tablet. It sucks.
It's a less inconvenient phone.
Oh, it's terrible.
But their laptops, absolutely, I agree. I think their laptops are an arm and a leg above the next competitor.
Absolutely.
I think because I've had an Apple laptop throughout college, and then I went to PC, like my desktop, and I love my PC for gaming and everything related to gaming. But when it comes to doing work, like
it fucking blows.
It's
night and day.
Arm and day, night and day compared to my laptop, which is Apple, and it's just so convenient. You could answer emails texting, all while doing all these things at the same time. It just integrates with your phone seamlessly. So I would say, yeah, I don't know, basically what you said.
Yeah,
the iPad's just not a practice. I think you tried it, didn't you, with work? Like, you tried to go full
I tried to make the transition to a full-blown iPad, and I went out and bought like the Mac Daddy iPad. And again, in my head, I'm thinking it's going to be just basically a keyboardless, touchscreen Mac
like
OS.
File share and all that.
It isn't, right? Because it doesn't use any of the Mac OS file system. It's using the phone file system, which is just fucking awful.
Yeah.
And the apps are all basically just glorified iPhone apps instead of like the full-blown Mac app. And it's got an M1 chip in it, right? So it can run all that shit. It's just that they need to just update the operating system and just do it.
I think you hit the nail on the head. I think they don't want to take sales away from the laptops, because imagine charging $1,500 for an iPad.
So obviously they just released the M4 iPad, which is like with a 1 terabyte drive, which would match my laptop. It's like $2,400 for a freaking iPad, right?
That's insane.
And everybody's like, okay, they just released this iPad Pro with all of this, horsepower. They're going to basically announce a complete revision to iPad OS to take advantage of it, and they didn't.
and they gave you notes notes that could give
Tim
you.
Cook could be standing on top of Apple Park with his middle finger up, going, "Hey, iPad owners, fuck you." That's what he did, right?
It's
horseshit. It sucks.
And they gave you. You're not happy with the multiplication.
I'm an Apple guy, so this is coming from an Apple guy going, fuck you, Apple.
I was going to say, you're not happy with the notes being able to do multiplication for you? Isn't that one of the things that was smart?
Okay, that's been on the goddamn Microsoft's had an app on the iPad that's been able to do that for fucking 3 years. Fuck you.
I know. Apple's kind of crazy. I think they did come out with the Vision OS 2, which was 6 months ago, but who has the Vision OS?
Nobody.
I don't know a single person that has it. I don't think.
Nobody bought it other than the people who wanted to buy it and put themselves on Facebook or YouTube, right, and do videos.
And that's a tax write-off if they're doing it on YouTube. It's you know what I'm saying?
Nobody's buying that thing because it's $4,000. Nobody's buying that.
Speaking of nobody buying that,
$4,000. I didn't buy it. You know it's bad, right?
Elon Musk wanting a $26 billion payday, and all of his investors are doing it. What do you think?
Well, there's a lot. Oh man. So
So Elon Musk wants $26 billion to make Tesla his primary focus. Your thoughts, go.
Okay, I mean that's from my understanding, right? I don't know all the details. That is a compensation package that was agreed to in 2018.
Oh, it dates back.
And it basically said, look, I won't take a penny in salary or a penny in anything. Basically, whatever the stock is in 2018, right? You give me whatever it is. It was a lot, right? $20 billion. But or I only make money if the stock goes up.
And it has.
So I'm like, okay, what's the problem here, right?
I agree. I got into it with my boss.
So
he doesn't
Musk
like him.
is smart as shit. I don't know I don't own Tesla. Shame on me, but
good time to buy
never
right now.
owned Tesla, right? But he's a sharp cat because he's like, you know what? Everybody knows that Tesla's working on a supercomputer and an AI application, right? And he basically said, you know what? If you're not going to pay me, I'm going to just take that and give it to Twitter or give it to X, or I'm just going to spin it off as its own separate company, and Tesla will get none of that. And Tesla will just be basically a car company, right, instead of a technology company.
Yeah, man.
And I think everybody was like, "Oh yeah, we gotta gotta
make him happy.
Why are we pissing this dude off?"
One
right?
thing about it is, and a lot of older people, not your generation, but the generation above yours, do not like Elon Musk. I know two people that absolutely can't stand Elon Musk because they don't think he's a smart fellow.
Yeah, okay.
They think that he is basically a rich guy that pays smart people to be around him that do all the developing. And I think
okay. What's their point?
I think part of that's true, but to question his intelligence is I think he's
stupid.
incredibly smart. What my boss included can't stand the guy, doesn't think he deserves the money, but at the end of the day, like you said, the one that is his name.
It was a pure 100% performance
incentive
compensation.
package. Yeah.
So I don't know what is the beef?
Yeah, I think he deserves it. I think that, he's not struggling for money, but I think it's something where he's doing it as like you said, leverage. If you don't give me the money, I'm not going to use this AI to power Tesla. And he bought like $500 million worth of NVIDIA chips.
Stuff and gave it all to X.
Yeah. So what was the words that they used? They used diverted it or something like that.
Tesla wasn't ready to take ownership of it, so we sent it over to Twitter, and we'll reorder later when you give me my goddamn compensation. So I mean, look, he's
a smart guy with business. I can't take that away from him.
Yeah, I don't know what the beef is. I really don't. I mean, it's a performance thing, right? It isn't like how many of these CEOs get paid when their freaking stock's tanking? I mean, I'm sure the guy in Disney, right, whose stock has been tanking for 2 years is still making tens of millions of dollars every year, right, at the expense of stock ownership. This guy's like, look, pay me based on this. And if we don't make money, I don't make any money. And if we do make money, I make a shit ton of money. What's the problem?
No, I think that's a good take on it. I mean, I don't know. We'll see where it goes. But as soon as NVIDIA starts going down, you're going to see like a recession breakout. Because that's the only thing keeping the market green right now.
I mean, Microsoft and Apple are still smoking.
I looked at their stock yesterday. It was red yesterday. So that's just one day. But...
Fucking GoPro.
I know.
I'm getting an Insta360. Hey, Insta360, if you're listening and you want to sponsor us for a
that's another thing. This
camera,
fucking guy in our email sponsorship. He's been in our email for 3 months. Just
I know. I just ignored. I felt bad because I mean.
But like, if he wants to,
it's a legitimate offer. It's just that he's asking for shit that there's no point in us giving our demographics.
Like
right? We got 6 people that listen to this fucking podcast.
By him doing as much as like him even wasting the time to write the email up, which is probably just a pre-scripted script.
It is.
It's just like, dude, just if you want to make it happen, we said we were interested. Just send the shit over.
I know. I never actually went that far because, he keeps saying, I should just say, hey, just send us a box of your shit and we'll do it on the podcast, right?
We'll do a 5-minute
talk
segment
about it for the next 6 months.
I know.
Because we got nothing else going on, right? So, but I mean, look, he wants like, what was it? Demographics, viewer insights, and I'm like, dude, we got like 6 people that listen to the freaking podcast.
By the time you seriously took like an hour out of your day, it would cost more money to fucking, you know what I'm saying?
I mean, I could pull all that shit from Apple, but I'm like, yeah, it's not worth it. So.
And I actually looked at our demographic, and I think we did good on Rumble for a lot of this stuff. Like, if you looked at our views
I haven't looked
stuff,
at Rumble in a long time.
Some of our stuff on there has 200 views per episode. Like, most of the stuff has 200 views, and you look at YouTube, and it's like sub 50 or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's like, I was like, holy shit, Rumble's like a pretty good spot for, I guess, up and coming guys. And even X, if we started an X account, they're promoting smaller creators. So I don't know. It was cool.
We're at 50 minutes. Do you want to shut this down here as this episode, and then we'll just jump right into this next one?
That's up to you. I don't care. If you want to keep going, keep going. If you want to do 2, we can do 2.
I know the camera's the Canon's gonna crap out in a minute, and that's dead now.
All right, we can do an audio only one for the next one.
All right, so I'm trying to think. What else we talked about? Motorcycle, the Tesla. We got other shit to talk about because it's been 6 months since we've been on.
Yeah.
Let's do another one. That way, people don't have to sit here for an hour and a half. And all right, we're gonna kill this one. So this is episode 69.
Going into 70.
We are back, and we're going to record the 70 right after this. So you'll probably see like a
back-to-back drop.
Yeah, Sunday, Tuesday sort of thing or something. And then we'll rock it going forward. All right,
great.
Later, man. Everybody, see ya.